This shouldn't exist, but it did. There were punishments so disturbing, so carefully designed, that they didn't just kill people. They broke the human mind first. And the strangest part? Most of these weren't secret. They were public, legal, normal. So the real question is, what kind of world creates something like this? Let's start slow, and then go somewhere you won't expect. Because by the end, you might wish you never knew. Imagine sitting in complete darkness. No light, no sound, just the feeling that something is moving. At first, it's faint, barely noticeable. A scratch, then another, then dozens. This was known as the Rat Dungeon. Deep beneath medieval London, prisoners were chained in a flooded cell connected to the river. But here's the strange part. The water wasn't the real threat. When the river rose, it forced hundreds of rats out of their nests, straight into the dungeon. And the prisoner? He couldn't see them, only hear them. Soft footsteps turning into a swarm. At first, small bites. Test bites. Then more. And more. You could fight them off for a while. But exhaustion always wins. And the moment you collapse, that's when they take everything. But that's not even the worst part. Because sometimes they didn't come back for you. They just left you there, alive, waiting. Now imagine something different. Not darkness, but control. Total, precise control over your body. The rack looked simple, almost harmless. But that's exactly what made it terrifying. Because nothing happened quickly. You were tied down, wrists and ankles pulled in opposite directions. Then, slowly, the turning began. Each click stretched your body just a little more. Your joints didn't snap right away. They resisted. Until they didn't. Shoulders dislocated first. Then hips. Then knees. And here's where it gets disturbing. Most people didn't confess the truth. They confessed anything. Names. Lies. Stories. Whatever would make it stop. But it rarely did. Because sometimes they already decided your fate. So the real purpose wasn't truth. It was submission. But this is where it gets weird. Some victims survived. Alive, but permanently broken. Bodies intact, but never whole again. Now picture the open ocean. No walls. No chains. Just water and a ship slowly moving away from you. This was keel hauling. And at first glance, it sounds like drowning. But it's worse than that. A rope tied to your body, dragging you beneath the ship. And here's the twist. The ocean isn't what kills you. It's the ship itself. Because underneath, the hull is covered in razor-sharp barnacles. So as you're dragged across it, your body becomes the path. Skin tears, bones crack, water fills your lungs. And even if you survive one pass, they might pull you back again. But no one talks about this part. Sometimes, surviving was worse. Because what came after was slow infection, pain that didn't end quickly, and a body that would never look human again. Now let's change something. Not the pain, but the audience. Because some punishments weren't just about death. They were about spectacle. Crushed by elephants. Yes, really. In parts of history, executions weren't hidden. They were events. Crowds gathered, watching as trained elephants carried out sentences. And here's what makes it unsettling. The elephant didn't act randomly. It followed orders, meaning someone was directing every step. Sometimes it was quick. One step, instant death. But other times, they made it last. Crushing limbs one by one, pausing between each movement, letting the crowd feel every second. And that's when things changed. Because this wasn't punishment anymore. It was performance. Power, displayed in its purest form. And the message was clear. This could be you. But what if death wasn't the goal? What if the goal was time? Because the next method wasn't fast. It was designed to stretch suffering into something unbearable. Impalement. And yes, it's exactly what you think. But the details are worse than you imagine. A sharpened stake, driven through the body. Slowly, carefully, avoiding immediate death. So the victim stayed alive. Sometimes for hours. Sometimes longer. And here's the part people don't expect. The body was often displayed afterward. Left in public. Not hidden. A warning. A symbol. A reminder that the process mattered just as much as the outcome. But here's the real question. Why make it last that long? Why not end it quickly? And that leads to something deeper. This wasn't about justice. It was about control over life itself. Now imagine being sealed inside a bag. You can't see. You can barely breathe. But you're not alone. This was called the penalty of the sack. And it wasn't just execution. It was chaos. Inside the bag, they placed animals. A dog. A snake. A rooster. A monkey. confined, panicked, trapped with you. And then, the bag was thrown into water. Now think about that for a second. You're drowning, surrounded by terrified animals clawing for survival. No space, no escape, just movement, panic, noise, and then silence. But here's what makes this even stranger. This punishment was reserved for one specific crime: killing your own family. Almost like society believed. Only something unnatural deserved something this extreme. But that raises another question. Who decides what crosses that line? Now we're about to cross into something darker. Because what comes next feels almost unreal. Rats again. But this time, used differently. A container placed on your body. A rat trapped inside. And then heat applied to the outside. Here's the problem. The rat needs to escape. And the only direction it can go is through you. It begins to dig. Panic-driven. Relentless. And this is where it gets horrifying. It doesn't stop until it finds a way out. But no one talks about this part. The victim is alive the entire time. Fully aware. Fully conscious. And that's when the question hits you. What's worse? The physical pain, or knowing exactly what's happening? Now imagine being trapped, but not alone. Not in darkness, but exposed. Seen by everyone. Gibbeting. A cage, shaped like your body. Hung in public. You're placed inside. Locked in. And left there. Alive. At first, people gather. Watching. Listening. Some curious. Some amused. But as time passes, the crowd disappears. And you're still there. Hungry. Thirsty. Begging. And here's the twist. Even after death, you're not taken down. Your body remains. Rotting. Swinging in the wind. For years. A permanent warning. And that's when you realize. This wasn't just punishment. It was storytelling. A message carved into reality. But nothing compares to what comes next. Because this one wasn't about visibility. It was about decay. Scaphism. And it begins in a boat. You're laid inside. Arms and legs exposed. Then, they feed you. Milk and honey. Over and over. Until your body can't handle it. And here's why. It causes your body to break down. Attracting insects. Animals. Parasites. They cover you in the same mixture. So everything is drawn to you. And then, you're left in the sun. Day after day. Fed again. Covered again. Until your body becomes part of the environment. Consumed slowly. From the outside and the inside. And this is where it gets truly disturbing. Some victims lasted over 2 weeks. Fully conscious. Watching it happen. And that changes everything. Because now the question isn't how painful it is. It's how long the mind can endure before it breaks. And finally, we reach something that doesn't sound as extreme, but might be the most terrifying of all. Because this one doesn't rely on pain. It relies on something else. Being forgotten. The oubliette. A tiny, enclosed space. No room to stand. No room to lie down. Just enough space to exist. And then nothing. No guards. No schedule. No interaction. Just time. Or maybe, no sense of time at all. Sometimes, there was already a body inside. A previous prisoner. A reminder of what's coming. And this is where it gets unsettling. Some of these places were discovered centuries later. Filled with bones. Layer upon layer. Meaning no one came back. No one checked. No one remembered. And that leaves you with one final question. What's worse? Pain that ends your life. Or silence that erases it. Because in the end, some of these people didn't just die. They disappeared. And maybe that was the point. Or maybe that's the part we still don't understand.